What's up, guys? This is Kephas, and we are back in the Legion Beta / PTR public test realm. Today we are going to check out the Protection Paladin. You can tell because I have this really cool shield and sword going on. And yes, I am a Paladin, in fact. And as you can see down at the action bar, there are very few buttons once again because this is a very, very simple rotation. I'm going to tell you that right now. You may not need macros to do this, but we will have probably a macro anyways. I have one already kind of made up just to test things out, you know, all that stuff. People keep asking me if I will share the macros that I've made, and the answer to that question obviously is no, because they're still testing. I'm still testing right now, so I will have a link, because people are asking this stuff. I'm going to have a link in the description below to a website where you can go. It's not where I get my macros, but it's where I started to learn how to use Gnome Sequencer and make these macros. It's called wowlazymacros.com. I'll have a link to that in the description below. You can go there. You can kind of learn. You can see what other people are doing with macros with Gnome Sequencer. I don't know if there's any Legion stuff up yet. I haven't checked it in a while, but that might help you out until I start getting my videos out. I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it, is just point people there until I start getting videos out and showing guides and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, guys, but I'm not going to release anything until it's tested, until it's in its like final form, because that is how I like to roll, because I like to try to be as quote professional as I can, right? So that's kind of the way it is. But anyways, we're checking out the Prot Paladin here right now, and I just wanted to get this out because I wanted to show you guys how easy it might be for you to tank. Say if you want to be a tank, if you want to do that kind of role and you want sort of an easier mode, this might be the way to go. I haven't checked out any other tank specs yet, but I'm really surprised at how simplified this is. First things first, there's no longer holy power for Prot Paladins, and there's a lot of other things that aren't anything. I guess is what I'm trying to say. There is very little for you to worry about as a Prot Paladin. So let's go into the abilities here and take a look. Now, let's see. We've got Ardent Defender, which has always been kind of a tanksy cooldown, you know, kind of survivability kind of thing. Do it when you're about to die. Basically what it's going to do is reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds while Ardent Defender is active. The next attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 12% of your maximum health. So this is kind of your oh crap button when you're about to die. Use this and you'll have a pretty good buff and a chance to come back to life in case you were about to die. So that's what you want to use. Obviously that won't be in the macro because you want to use that more of a reactionary kind of thing or whatever. Then it's very situational, so you have to keep that out separately. And then there's Avenger's Shield, which this is kind of your opener. This is what I like to use at the very beginning of a fight, like trash or whatever I'm using. It's like freaking Captain America, dude. Avenger's Shield hurls your shield at an enemy target, dealing a bunch of holy damage, interrupting and silencing the non-player target for 3 seconds, and then jumping to 2 additional nearby enemies. So this is good to use at the beginning of a fight and obviously when it's off cooldown. So it has a 13.6 second cooldown. You can use it whenever it's off cooldown, and there are some other abilities that might reset that cooldown, so we'll get into those later. So obviously this is probably one you want to start with. Then there's Avenging Wrath, which is like a Paladin staple at this point. Just increases all damage and healing you deal by 35% for 20 seconds. That one, however, is in the macro because I like to use it at all times just because it's going to help you out. Hand of Freedom, these are just, you know, very whatever things. Cleanse, the same thing. Now, Consecration, this is an interesting one. It has an 8.18 second cooldown. Consecrates the land beneath you, causing a bunch of holy damage over 8.2 seconds to enemies who enter the area. Now, this is an AoE. It also does a lot of, pretty good single target damage. Like when you compare it to this, it's pretty good damage, but it has other effects that we'll get into with other abilities. So this is something that you're going to want to use all the time. Now, the thing that you need to know, though, is that it's not something that you put on an enemy. It's something that you put on the ground where you're standing. There's not like a little, like, you know, the green circle reticle thing for AoEs, like, you know, like with volley, like how volley used to be. It's not like that. It's more like wherever you're standing, you're going to consecrate the ground, and it puts this area like where it does damage to them, and it will enhance some of your abilities depending on some talents that you choose and some other things. So we'll get into that. Divine Shield, it's your bubble. You've got Divine Steed, which now for Ret Paladins, I like it. This is a talent, but for Prot Paladins, this is an actual ability that you're given. It's the same thing. Check it out. I'll show you. Crusader, Divine Steed. Check it out. So you have your mount for a few seconds. Just gives you some mobility so that you can like, get around to where you need to be. Pretty cool. That'll be really handy in fights. Flash of light, whatever. Guardian of Ancient Kings. This is your other kind of tank cooldown. 5-minute cooldown, but empowers you with the spirit of ancient kings, reducing all damage you take by 50%. This is a cooldown that you'd probably use when you know that a lot of damage is about to happen. So you know that for the next few seconds or however long you're going to take a bunch of damage, this is the cooldown that you're going to want to use for that to reduce that damage. And so that's how you use that. So again, this will not be in the macro, but you have an idea of how it works. So use this one and then use Ardent Defender based on their situations. Those are your only two tank CC cooldowns, by the way. So there's that. Okay, so we've got Hammer of Justice. That's just another CC ability, which is actually, I think it's a talent. No, it's not a talent. Anyways, Hammer of the Righteous. Now what this does, this has a 4.09 second cooldown. Hammers the current target for a bunch of physical damage while you are standing in your... I guess it doesn't have... I guess it's not an AoE effect anymore. Okay, well hang on, no. See, here it is. While you are standing in your consecration, Hammer of the Righteous also causes a wave of light that hits all other targets within 8 yards for 3,825 holy damage. So this, when you're using Consecrate, it turns Hammer of the Righteous into an AoE attack. So there you go. That's kind of how that works. It's a 4.09 second cooldown, and yeah, so you know what? As long as you're in it and you're using Hammer of the Righteous, it'll turn it into an AoE kind of attack. This is kind of like your filler, I guess your bottom priority ability. It's what you use when you have nothing else to use, but again, it has a cooldown. If you notice, every ability that we've talked about so far has cooldowns, and that is not going to change. Hand of Reckoning is your taunt. Simple as that. Judgment. Now this one's cool. Judges an enemy, dealing 18,000 holy damage and reducing the remaining cooldown on Shield of the Righteous 2 seconds or 4 seconds on a critical strike. So, now, obviously, if you're reading this and you're paying attention, you'll know that you usually don't want to use this if Shield of the Righteous is off cooldown. In other words, if this is available and this is available, which one are you going to want to hit? This one, because this one will reduce the cooldown of this one. We'll get into this one here in a minute. So you're starting to notice kind of a priority, right, of what you want to hit when. So let's keep going, though. Lay on Hands. It's just like a heal for yourself. Light of the Protector. This one's pretty cool too. Calls down the light to heal you for 25% of your missing health. That's pretty daggone powerful. Every 13.6 seconds you can do that. While you are standing in your consecration, Light of the Protector's healing is increased by 20%. So again, consecration is affecting abilities. You've got Rebuke to interrupt. You've got your Res, and then there's Shield of the Righteous. This is kind of probably, I'd say, your most important ability. So what this does is slams the target with your shield, causing a bunch of holy damage and reducing the damage you take by 36% for 4.5 seconds. So it gives you some mitigation, does a massive amount of damage, and also while you are standing in your consecration, Shield of the Righteous effects are increased by 20%. So check that out. Now, next we've got these are passives. Let's go over these real quick. So we've got Grand Crusader. When you avoid a melee attack, use Hammer of the Righteous, you have a 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Avenger's Shield. So we have another reset ability. So once again, if you've got Avenger's Shield off cooldown, you don't want to use that before you use Hammer of the Righteous, because Hammer of the Righteous has a chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Avenger's Shield. So let's keep going. We'll build this together here at the end. So next up is Heart of the Crusader. Increases your mounted speed by 20%. It does not stack with other movement speed increases. So it's basically like what Crusader Aura used to be, except it's a passive that you have all the time, which is kind of crazy. Your mastery is really cool. So whenever you gain more mastery, it'll increase this. Increases damage reduction from Shield of the Righteous by 11% and increases the chance to block melee attacks by 22%. Also increases your attack power by 22%. So this increases your mitigation, your block, and your damage. So mastery is kind of a big deal, I think, for Protection Paladins. I don't know what else you'd want to use, but there you go. Okay, so those are your abilities. That's all the Protection Paladin has. And if you noticed, every single one of these abilities has a cooldown, which means that Gnome Sequencer macroing this will be a piece of cake. So generally what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to use your cooldown resets first. But you also want to use Consecration early because it's going to enhance your other abilities. So you'll always start off with Avenger's Shield, and then you'll do Consecration, and then you'll do Shield of the Righteous. And then you can do Judgment to reduce the cooldown of Shield of the Righteous, and then you can also do Hammer of the Righteous to potentially reset the cooldown of Avenger's Shield. So that's basically what you're going to do. Start with this, then go to this, and then these two, whenever they're off cooldown. And then after that, you'll pretty much, like, use them whenever, right? Because, I mean, it's just hit what comes first, you know what I mean? Like, generally, you're going to just do first come, first serve. That's back again, because that's kind of how this class is designed. This ability here, now, in my Gnome Sequencer macro, I have all the abilities that we've gone over, all the, the rotational abilities. I've also included this one in the macro because I figure you're going to be taking damage all the time anyways, and this cooldown's pretty short. You could probably just use this whenever you need it, whenever you need to heal yourself, but I just put in the macro as a passive continuous healing to help out the healers, because I'm sure a lot of tanks are going to forget about this one, and this is actually a pretty big deal. Plus there are some talents that can reduce this cooldown as well, which we'll go over after we demonstrate how this rotation kind of looks. So let's go in and pick a fight. Now this is just normal Iron Docks that I'm in. I'm by myself. I'm level 100, so I'm not like super powerful or anything, but we'll see how it goes. The level 3 elites, and we're just going to take on the pack. So I'm just running in, doing my thing. I love the camera. The camera action cam, look at that. Now, as you can see, I didn't consecrate first, but that's okay. It really doesn't matter, I don't think, that much. I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal in the world if you don't get it perfect. But it is consecrating again, and you can see, whenever you see those shields next to me, that means that Avenger's Shield has come, the proc has happened, and it's off cooldown. So now those guys I just kind of taunted, running in, and I'm doing pretty decent AoE damage when I stay in consecration. So, because it turns Hammer of the Righteous into an AoE, it also, Avenger's Shield is always an AoE, and then Consecration is doing AoE damage as well. So generally your rotation doesn't change. That's what's really cool about the Prot Paladin, is that you just do the same thing every fight over and over again, and then just be smart with your CDs, and use those or whenever you need to for survivability, taunt if something falls off of you, and there are some talents that will make even that easier. So we will go over those. And as you can see, I'm just mindlessly running through these guys. Piece of cake, not even a problem. So Avenger's Shield up again. We're doing it, Consecration, and then we're just going to go into whatever we need to hit. We'll judge them, we'll do everything that we need to do, and they will just die. Which we're not so much worried about how much damage we're doing. I mean, obviously, if you can do more damage, that's great, but you're mainly worried about keeping their attention and making sure that, well, basically you're just trying to keep their attention and making sure that you stay alive. So now, as you notice, there was a good example of how the macro can have a weakness. You need to be smart about how you use it. You need to pay attention to where you put Consecration down. You might want to consider not using the macro and doing it, like, especially if you're going to play like for serious, like you're going to do raiding and stuff like that. You definitely want to try to do this without using a macro, because as you saw, like, I mean, I'm just hitting it whenever it happens, but you want to be kind of smart where you put down your Consecration, because wherever you do it, you want to make sure that all the enemies are standing within it and that you are also standing within it, and in some cases your party members are also standing within it, which we'll go over that again when we get to the talents. It's pretty cool what the Prot talents can do. There really isn't anything that changes how the rotation works. It just changes what you benefit from and stuff like that. So what I would do if I was using the macro is I would just do Hammer or Avenger's Shield and then hit it again to do Consecrate, and then just kind of go to town. That's kind of how you want to do it. Then you can spam away. So just kind of be smart with it. I'm going to probably end up pulling that boss if I'm not careful, so let's pull these guys back here. But as you can see, it's doing really good. The macro's fine. Piece of cake. The rotation, like I said, there really isn't much to say. I was just happy to show it to you guys because I wanted you to know that if you wanted the tank, it would be fairly easy to do. To the detriment of others who actually want to challenge. If you'll notice, the blessings, the greater blessings that the Ret Paladin has, the Prot Paladin doesn't have, so there is no buffing for Prot Paladins, which is kind of weird. But anyways, let's go over the talents real quick before we take on that dude there. We'll see if we can take down that boss still. So, talents are this. Let's see. First Avenger, passive, increases the damage of Avenger's Shield by 50% and increases the chance for its remaining cooldown to be reset by abilities and talents by 50%, but it now hits only one target. I don't like that for just general pulls. I mean, it's because you don't want to use this for trash because you want to be able to hit all of the ones you can for trash packs. But you know what? It does a pretty good enhancement. It might be good for like a single target fight, so it's something to think about. And then of course, there's this one, Bastion of Light, which is a 3-minute cooldown instant ability. Immediately grants 3 charges of Shield of the Righteous. So this will give you a ton of mitigation, 3 charges of it, so that's kind of cool. Then you can always do Crusader's Judgment, which is what I went with. Judgment also trigger Grand Crusader, and that was that passive that we were reading about. Let's go back over it. Grand Crusader is this one here. So whenever you do Judgment, you also get the effect of having a chance to reset the cooldown of Avenger's Shield. So now Judgment also might reset Avenger's Shield. So I like this one because it gives you more chances to reset Avenger's Shield. That's why it was happening so much for me, as you saw. Next up, Holy Shield. This is what I went with. Increases your block chance by 10%, allows you to block spells, and your successful blocks deal 4,000 holy damage to your attackers. So this allows you to block spells, and it also increases your block chance by 10% and does damage back to targets that you block. That's really cool. You could also go with this one, Blessed Hammer. This is awesome. I can't switch to it because I'm not in a rested area, which is kind of lame, but basically what this one does, you know, I hope they have like tents that you can make, maybe leather workers can make, and if you put them down in like an area like in a dungeon or something, you can go inside and rest so that you can change your talents or something. I hope that's like in the game. It probably is or something like that. But anyways, Blessed Hammer, if you're familiar with Diablo, it's exactly like it is in Diablo. It literally twirls a hammer around your body, and what it's going to do is it throws a Blessed Hammer, it spirals outward, dealing 5,000 holy damage to enemies that it hits and causing them to deal 15% less damage to you on their next auto attack. That's kind of cool. So it's a 4.09 second cooldown, which is what it was before, but it replaces Hammer of the Righteous, so it basically just turns your Hammer of the Righteous into, makes you a Hammerden, which it's kind of cool, right? You could definitely use this one. It might be pretty good. It's going to give you some mitigation. It's going to do a little bit of damage, and it's a different way to do it. I don't know if it's better. This one just seems really good to me. I don't know, but this one's really cool, and if you want to use it, you can just switch to it. If you're using the macros, like a gnome sequencer macro or any kind of macro, it won't matter. You can just keep hitting the macro. It'll be fine. So next up, Consecrated Hammer. Hammer of the Righteous has no cooldown and always gains the damage bonus of Consecration. This one is pretty cool too. This is another viable option that you can use if you basically like want to hit an ability all the time, and it'll make sure that you're always doing the AoE version of Hammer of the Righteous. That way it's always like hitting every target that it can, which is pretty cool. This is a good option if you want to kind of have a more active rotation. If you feel like you don't like having all of your abilities have a cooldown, this will turn Hammer of the Righteous into a pure filler ability. You spam it when you have nothing else to hit, and it's as simple as that, and it could potentially give you more chances to reset the cooldown of Avenger's Shield, which will give you more buttons to hit, so that's an option as well. Again, it won't change how the macro works, so you can take any of these you want. I just felt like this one was an obvious, like just a very simple buff that I thought was awesome. Does a lot of different things. Being able to block spells is a huge deal, I think. So that's what I went with. This would help my survivability tremendously and also add some damage to it. I thought this was a good way to go, but I'll listen to what other people think in the future and see what they think. But you can take any of these you want. It doesn't matter. This one is all just CC stuff, just like any Paladin. The next one, Blessing of Spell Warding. This just is another, like, just a passive, you know, like, changes your Blessing of Protection, whatever. Then there's Blessing of Salvation. Again, it's another blessing. It just removes threat from whoever you bless and passes it to you, kind of like what's that? Vengeance. And then what warriors can do. Something like, it's kind of like that. And then there's this one. This is cool. Retribution Aura. This is another throwback to the old days of Paladins. What it does is it allows you to deal 305 damage to any enemy whose melee attack strikes a non-tank party or raid member within 60 yards. This could help with your threat gaining, and it'll also just do damage. I mean, if you're doing your job, you shouldn't need to use this. But in case something pulls threat off you, you'll start doing damage to it passively, and it should cause it to come back to you, or at least help you get that threat back as quickly as possible. I thought this was a good option, but I mean, again, it's whatever you want. It's not going to affect the macros or anything, or just how you play. So you can take this, any of these you want. It's whatever you feel like you need. Obviously, a lot of these things, guys, what you're going to find is, especially with a tank, you're going to take what do you think is the most important. Like, if you need CC on your raid team, you're going to want to use Repentance because it's a CC ability versus having a stun. Same with all these other ones. It's kind of like situational, and you're going to want to change on the fly. But anyways, I'm going with this one because I think it's really cool. Next up, we've got Hand of the Protector. This changes Light of the Protector, calls down the light to heal a friendly target for 25% of the target's missing health. So this allows you to actually heal friendly targets. Pretty cool. I don't know if like you have to actually target them and then do it. I haven't really tried it, but anyways, that's pretty Cool. Next up, Knight Templar reduces the cooldown of Divine Steed by 50% and reduces all damage taken while mounted on your divine steed by 20%. Pretty cool, right? Because this is just going to give you more mobility. That's pretty cool. And then there's also Final Stand. When you use Divine Shield, you also taunt all targets within 15 yards for 8 seconds. I thought that was awesome. Gives you mass taunt, right? I thought that would be really cool to use as a tank, so that's what I went with. Again, all situational stuff. Next up, Aegis of Light. It's channeled ability with a 5-minute cooldown. Channels an Aegis of Light that protects you and all allies standing within it 10 yards behind you for 6 seconds, reducing all damage taken by 20%. This is a mass mitigation ability. There will probably be times as a tank you're going to want to use this, so always know that it's there, because if your raid team needs a mass mitigation ability, this is what you're going to want to switch to. You'll obviously manage it by itself, which shouldn't be too much trouble. It's just going to give you another tank cooldown, survivability kind of thing. What I go with in general is Judgment of Light. Judgment now applies Judgment of Light to the target, causing the next 40 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for 1,221. This effect can only occur once per 1 second on each target. So this is going to heal you for a lot of health, right? I mean, I don't know, definitely over 40,000. So, I mean, I don't know how big our health pools are going to be, and I would imagine this value will go up as you hit level 110. I'm not sure. But anyways, this seemed really cool because it's going to make it so that you're getting healing all the time. Whenever you judge a target, that target's going to start healing you whenever attacks are put against it. So that's really cool. And you'll be using Judgment all the time, so that's pretty nice. And then there's also this one, Consecrated Ground. This one's also situational, really cool ability. Up to 6 allies standing within your consecration receive 507 health every 0.9 seconds, and enemies within your consecration have a 50% reduced movement speed. This is really cool how this works here. You put down Consecrate, 6 of your allies are within it, and they get health back. Now, obviously, they need to know to stand in Consecrate to get that health back, kind of like how Healing Rain works if you're a shaman. And you know the fun of that whenever you're a shaman, like, please stand in the circle. It's kind of the same thing here, but tanks can do it. So that's kind of cool. Again, situational, more healing for, like, if melee needs some healing, stuff like that, maybe help out your healers. All of these are going to help out your healers in different ways. This is tank healing, this is a little bit of group healing, and this is major damage mitigation for a specific moment in a fight, similar to how Guardian of the Ancient King works for yourself. And then, of course, there's this one. For the last tier, Righteous Protector, Shield of the Righteous, reduces the remaining cooldown on Light of the Protector and Avenging Wrath by 3 seconds. That is pretty stinking rad right there. Next up, Seraphim, the Light temporarily magnifies your power, increasing your haste, crit strike, mastery, and versatility by 750, which you do this every 30 seconds. Consumes up to 2 charges of Shield of the Righteous and lasts 8 seconds per charge. So that's pretty cool. So you could use basically you'd use get a bunch of charges of Shield of the Righteous on you, then use this. You'll have this last for as long as you can, at least 16 seconds, maybe more. It's a 30-second cooldown, so you could potentially have this up at all times if you use it correctly. That's kind of cool. And then there's Last Defender. Each enemy within 8 yards reduces the damage that you take and increases the damage that you deal by 3%. This effect has diminishing returns. So obviously, if you're doing big trash fights with a lot of enemies, this is a great option as well. So again, all situational. I really like this one though, because it reduces the cooldown of, what is it called? Light of the Protector and Avenging Wrath by 3 seconds every time I use Shield of the Righteous. Since I'm using this Gnome Sequencer macro, it's a little bit unintuitive. Having those abilities come off cooldown as quickly as possible, to me, is the best way to go. So that was a pretty good option. So anyways, those are your talents. As you can see, a lot of it's your choice. Based on the fight, based on what your team needs, you will switch to what talents. That's kind of how the theme is for Legion anyways, for most classes. But as you can see, the rotation is very simple. You can easily just kind of pull things to you. You just hit your cooldowns, hit whatever comes off cooldown. Make sure you kind of follow the order. Like, it's pretty obvious what you need to do, right? I mean, if you want to use an ability, make sure you're using the ability that has a cooldown before you use the ability that will potentially reduce or reset that cooldown. when you're doing your priority, and that's basically all you're going to do. Keep Consecrate down as often as possible, and then just use your other abilities. And don't stand in the fire like a fool like I am. But that's essentially what you're going to do. Pretty straightforward. You're going to do damage. As you can see, we're in like a freaking old dungeon, so I don't know how reliable the DPS meters are, but I'm doing fine. I mean, it's not a big deal at all. And as you can see, this guy's going down. It's going down a lot faster and a lot easier than he was in the Warlord's current live game. I mean, now I can still do this in live, but it was took a little bit longer, and I had to pay more attention. But as you can see, piece of cake here, no problem, easy, not even having to think about it. No more holy power, no more trouble, easy peasy. And that is how you do a Protection Paladin in Legion. As you can see, if you want to tank and you're worried about it being too difficult, it might not be too bad for you. Now, that doesn't say anything about the fights themselves, but anyways, there you go, guys. So I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was informative for you. I appreciate your feedback and your support for liking my videos and commenting and sharing them with your friends. So thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. This is Kephas. Until next time.